Hello and welcome. This is Covenant Science Tutorial Online, and we're going to be discussing something very important in the biology subject on today's episode. Okay, so if you're joining us for the first time, you should do well to subscribe to this channel so that whenever a video comes up, you can get notified. Ensure you turn notifications on as well. Okay, so we have discussed on this channel, we have discussed introduction to biology, the branches of biology. We've equally discussed on cell, okay? We've discussed on the types of cell, the kinds of cell. We've discussed on the cell theory. We've discussed the cell and its environment. That was the last video done. And we equally talked about the character of living things, where we mentioned an acronym known as Mr. Niger Card. Okay, so today, quickly, I want to start by telling us or enlightening us on what we know as the forms in which cells exist. Okay, so forms in which cells exist. Okay, so number one, a cell can exist as a single, also known as unicellular, okay, organism. A cell can equally exist in form of what we call colony. A cell can also exist in form of what we call filament. And lastly, a cell can either be in the form of a multicellular organism. Okay, so these are the basic forms in which cells exist. All right, so we have a single or unicellular free living organisms. We have in form of colonies, in form of filaments, and lastly multicellular organisms. Okay, so these are the four recognized forms in which cells may exist. All right, so a cell can be unicellular. All right, just like in basic organisms like your bacteria. Okay, that's unicellular, your bacteria. Okay, and some other organisms too who belong to this category. Now, unicellular means made of one cell, that is made of one particular type or kind of cell. Okay, we have organisms that exist in form of colonies. Such organisms are said to be colonial. All right. Now, examples of colonial organisms, we have organisms like the Volvox, Pandorina, and Endorina. Okay, there are others, but those are the three basic examples you should know. Okay, for exam purposes. Number three, we have filamentous organisms. Yes, these are simply organisms or cells that exist as filaments. Okay, we have two main examples here, being Spirogyra and another kind of cell or organism we call Eulothrix. Okay, so they are filamentous. All right, we equally have what is called the multicellular organisms. Yes, so many cellular cells. So such organisms are made up of many cells. All right, performing different functions as well. Okay, take note of that. All right, a video will come up subsequently where these organisms will be discussed in detail. Yes, we will discuss these organisms in detail. All right, so for today's class, we're going to talk about something we know as the classification of living things. Okay, do come with me. So, living organisms, as we know, are divided into two, which are mainly the plants and the animals. Living organisms are numerous, yes, all around us, in the air, on the land, in water, on trees. All right. So when we talk about ecology, we also talk about the habitat of living things, living organisms. Yes. All right. So organisms can dwell mainly in the following habitats. One is on land, and the land habitat is also known as the terrestrial habitat. So such organisms are described as terrestrial. We also have those that dwell in water. Such organisms are said to be aquatic. All right. And we have those that dwell on tree trunks. Such organisms are said to be arboreal. Yes. An example of an arboreal animal is the monkey. An example of animals in the aquatic environment are the fishes. Okay, but that's not our focus today. Our focus today is the classes of living organisms. All right, now we have what we call the scientific study of classification. It is also known as taxonomy. The scientific study of classification is also known as taxonomy, also called systematics. All right, it is actually a branch of biology. So you should see the video on the what do you call them, the branches of biology. Yes, in the introduction to biology class we have on this channel. All right, so you could see all the branches of biology. Please do avail yourself of the opportunity of watching that video. It will be grist to your meal. Okay, so don't forget, I said the scientific study of classifying living things is what we call taxonomy, also known as systematics. And the father of taxonomy is no other but our very own Carl Linus. All right, this is the father of taxonomy. Yes, some people call him Carolus Linus. Okay, but whichever the case, you are in order. Carl Linus is regarded as the father of classification. Okay, that being said, you should know that there are two types of classification. We have the modern classification and something we call the, let's call it the old system of classification. All right. So in the old system of classification, we have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. All right. I go again. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay. But in the modern system of classification, a new hierarchy known as the domain, okay, has been introduced. The domain. All right. But for most exams, biology exams, at the national level within Nigeria and other parts of the world at large, most examiners still maintain the old system of classification. Okay, so that is what I am going to dwell on. Okay, so we have what we call kingdom, we have phylum, we have class, we have order, we have family, we have genus, and species. Okay, so that is just a compilation of the first letters of each of the hierarchies of classification. Okay, so it should help us remember kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Excellent. Again, you should know that the first person to attempt classifying living organisms, okay, was a popular philosopher we call Aristotle. Aristotle was the first to attempt classifying living organisms. However, we attribute uh, the we attribute to Carl Linus the bulk of the credit when it comes to taxonomy. Yes, but the first person to have made an attempt in classifying living things was the man Aristotle. Excellent. So when we talk classification, we are talking of layers of organization where organisms are um, classified, are stratified, are arranged, are organized. Okay, so we have the kingdom, the phylum. Phylum is used with animals, while division is used with plants. Okay, so an animal belongs to a phylum, plural is called phyla, while a plant belongs to a division. Okay, then we have the class, the order, the family, the genus, and the species. So we have a table here to illustrate this on three main organisms. Okay, we have the domestic dog, we have humans, and then we have the earthworm. Okay, so you see on this side we have the hierarchies: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, so domestic dog, humans, and earthworm all belong to one kingdom, and that kingdom is called the kingdom animalia. The kingdom animalia. So they have one kingdom, they are all animals. You see that now? All right. Now, when we journey further, their phyla, yes, their phylums, where they belong, now differs. The domestic dog and humans belong to the same phylum, and that phylum is called Chordata. Okay. Now, the phylum Chordata includes animals that are characterized, okay, by the presence of something we call the notochord. The notochord, or what you call the backbone. So any animal that has a backbone or a notochord belongs to the phylum Chordata, while the earthworm belongs to a phylum we know as Annelida under the invertebrates. Yes. So invertebrates do not have a backbone. They don't have a notochord. Only vertebrates do. Let's journey further. In the class category, the domestic dog and humans belong to a class known as Mammalia, that is mammals. Okay. Now, who are mammals? Okay, or what are the qualities or features that makes an animal a mammal? Number one, which is the chiefest of all qualities, is the presence or possession of hair. Yes. So whenever an organism possesses hair, all right, such organism is likely to belong to the mammalian class. All right, that's one. Another feature of the mammals is possession of what we call mammary glands, which they use for breastfeeding. All right, for feeding their young. You see that now? Excellent. All right. Another feature of mammals is that mammals are viviparous. To be viviparous means you give birth to your young alive. All right. You give birth to your young alive. Excellent. So mammals equally have a well-developed brain and nervous system. Okay. Well-developed brain and nervous system. And then lastly, mammals are homoichemic. That is to say, we are warm-blooded. All right. So to be warm-blooded means you have a stable body temperature, and changes in the temperature of your environment does not distort this balance. Okay. Unlike organisms like the Pisces, the fishes that are cold-blooded, so their temperature, the body temperature varies with the temperature of their environment. All right. So we move on. The earthworm, on the other hand, belongs to a class known as Oligochaetae. You see that now? Good. Now, when we journey further to what we call order, the dog belongs to an order known as Carnivora. Yes, which are the carnivores, flesh-eating animals. The Carnivora. All right. And then these carnivoras have a special tooth for tearing, which is known as the carnassial. The carnassial. Yes, it's a special tooth in the carnivores for tearing, e.g. the domestic dog. Excellent. Man belongs to the order of the primates. The primates. All right. And then the earthworm belongs to the order of the Megadrilli. When we journey further to the family, the domestic dog belongs to a family known as Canidae. Canidae. Man belongs to a family known as Hominidae. And then the earthworm belongs to Lumbricidae. You see that now? When we journey further, we get to something called the genus. All right. Under the genus, the domestic dog is called Canis, or belongs to the genus Canis. Man belongs to the genus Homo, and the earthworm belongs to the genus Lumbricus. Lastly, we have what is called the species, which is the least level of classification, and the species for the domestic dog is called Familiaris, while that of man is called Sapiens, and that of the earthworm is called Terrestris. All right, now let's define some things here. Okay, let's define some things here. Excellent. Your species are the only group or hierarchy of classification that can interbreed. Yes. So this means mating, all right, is possible among species. Yes. Just the way we have different breeds or species of dogs, and they can come together and copulate. You see that now? Now, that interbreeding, that coming together of different breeds, yes, okay, is what we call interbreeding. Okay, so a bull mastiff and a cane corso mates. Now, that is possible because of something called interbreeding. And interbreeding is only obtainable among species. All right. Now, again, I need you to know that there is something in biology that we know as scientific names. Yes, organisms possess scientific names. All right. Now, the scientific name of an organism is usually a combination of the genus and the species. You see that now? So, biologists or scientists, when giving scientific names to living organisms, simply combine the genus and the species, and that gives us the scientific name of any organism. Okay, so if we want to ask for the scientific name of man, for example, we are going to combine these two. You see that now? And then we will have something called Homo sapiens. So man is Homo sapiens. That's the scientific name for man. The scientific name for the domestic dog, on the other hand, will be called Canis familiaris. You see that now? The scientific name then for the earthworm will be called Lumbricus terrestris. Are you learning? Excellent. So, to get scientific names, we just combine the genus name, which is the general name, and the species name, which is also the specific name. Did you get that? Excellent. So, both gives us what we call the scientific name. Let me say at this point that the scientific name given to an animal is called zoological name. The scientific name of an animal is the zoological name, while the scientific name of a plant is the botanical name. Excellent. Scientific name of an animal, zoological. Scientific name of a plant, botanical. You remember that the branch of biology that studies animals is called zoology, and the branch of biology that studies plants is known as botany. Don't forget that. Okay? And don't ignore my advice on watching the introductory video to biology on this channel. All right? The video is there for your viewing pleasure. Okay? Moving on. Now, when writing the scientific name of any organism, the genus name must begin with a capital letter, an initial capital letter, while the species, the specific name, should be written in small letters throughout. Now, when writing, okay, like in an exam that is paper-based, paper and pencil based, when writing, whenever you write the species, you must underline. Yes, this is a biological rule. You must underline. Now, for an author, probably a biology tutor who wants to write a book, when typing a scientific name, such an author must ensure that the species name is put in italics. That is to say, the letters are bent or slanted. All right, these are biological protocols or scientific protocols, okay, in biology. Do take note of that. Excellent. Okay, now we can go. We can proceed. Okay. Don't forget, the species are the only group of organisms that can interbreed. All right. So let us look at the kingdom. Now, you should know that the largest hierarchy of classification is the kingdom. In case you're asked in exam condition, the largest hierarchy, the biggest, the most vast is the kingdom. And because it is the largest, it means it will contain more organisms than any other hierarchy. You see that now? So if you ask a question like, which hierarchy of classification is most inclusive? To be most inclusive means it contains more organisms. Your answer is the kingdom. All right? Conversely, when you are asked which hierarchy of classification is the most exclusive, all right, your answer will be species. Yes, it will contain the least number of organisms. You see that now? Excellent. Okay? So, which hierarchy of classification as well is most diverse? That is containing various. I'm just introducing you to different terminologies through which examiners ask questions in this area. Okay, and most students fall for these questions hook, line, and sinker because they are not so familiar with the use of the English language vocabulary. To be diverse is to be various, to have an assortment. All right, so we would most likely be talking about the kingdom. Excellent. Now, talking about the hierarchy of classification, there are 5 main kingdoms in biology. 5. All right. 1. The Kingdom Monera. 2. The Kingdom Protista. 3. The Kingdom Fungi. 4. The Kingdom Plantae. And 5. The Kingdom Animalia. All right. I'll take that again. 1. Kingdom Monera. 2. The Kingdom Protista. 3. The Kingdom Fungi. 4. The Kingdom Plantae. And lastly, the Kingdom Animalia. Good. Okay, you should learn that. Now, before we start to dissect these kingdoms, I need to tell you of an important organism, all right, in biology known as the virus. Okay, now the virus is a very, very complicated organism. First of all, it is microscopic. By microscopic, we mean it is very small. And a virus can only be seen under the high power of an electron microscope. Yes, so viruses are actually smaller than bacteria. All right. Now, the diagram we have here on the board is the diagram of a virus. All right. Typically, a type of virus we call a bacteriophage. Okay, a bacteriophage. Excellent. All right. Now you can see the virus. It has what we call a protein coat. All right. Now, this protein coat is the structure that protects its genetic material. All right. So, this genetic material is what we call a DNA strand. All right. Now, basically speaking, a virus can actually be a DNA molecule or an RNA molecule. So, we have DNA viruses and RNA viruses. All right. Good. So, the genetic material of the virus is enclosed in a protein coat. All right. Now, this proteinous coat in biology has a name, and it is called the capsid. The proteinous coat safeguarding or securing the genetic material of the virus is known as the capsid. All right. Now, the virus has other components. It has a head. Yes. So from here down to this point is the head. It has a collar. All right. And it has tail. Okay. And then it has what we call an end plate. All right. And then a tail fiber. All right. So all these help the virus to attach to living cell. Okay. And then in what we call proliferation, that is reproduction. So viruses can undergo metabolism, viruses can undergo growth, and viruses can reproduce. Please take note of that. A virus can undergo metabolism, a virus can undergo growth, a virus can reproduce. You see that now. But there is a great question before um, scientists on whether or not the virus is living or non-living. And today I will attempt to contribute my quota in answering this question. All right. So the virus behaves in an abnormal manner. Yes. Outside of a living cell, the virus has no life. Yes. That is outside of the protoplasm, the virus has no life. All right. Rather, the virus will exist in a crystalline form, which we call virions. So virions are simply um, crystalline forms of the virus, non-living. You see that now? Good. So outside the living cell, the virus crystallizes, and those crystals are known as virions. But when a virus is introduced into a living cell, the virus starts to exhibit or display the character of living things. And the main character the virus will manifest in a living cell include metabolism, reproduction, and growth. All right. So you get that now, that a virus outside a living cell has no life, it crystallizes, but within a living cell, it starts to behave like a living thing. You see that? So we can say here that the virus is not a living thing. All right. Rather, the virus is more like a bridge connecting living things to non-living things. Please take note of that. The virus is more like a bridge or an evidence linking non-living things to living things. I hope you see that. Okay, that's good. All right. Now, the virus has a mechanism by which it enters a living cell and reproduces. All right. We have a lot of processes involved, one of which is called absorption. Yes. So it infiltrates a living cell, all right, and then it starts to replicate, it starts to reproduce very quickly. Yes. All right. And one of the ways it does this is by it takes the food. Yes, whatever food a person that is um, infected with a virus consumes, the virus eats of the food too. And then the virus causes something we call gene mutation. The virus can start to copy the genetic material of that individual or of the cell wherein it is resident. You see that? And then it will start to reproduce. All right. So that's what we need to know. So we have animal viruses as well and plant viruses. There are viruses that affect animals and there are viruses that affect plants. And lastly, I will need you to know, okay, not lastly, penultimately, the branch of biology that studies the virus is called virology. The branch of biology that studies the virus is known as virology. All right. So lastly, I will need you to know that viruses have economic importance. And the basic economic importance of a virus is that it causes diseases to plants and animals. Excellent. Okay, quickly before we go on, the act, okay, or the practice or the culture of giving two names to an organism, all right, which are usually the genus name and the species name, okay, is known as binomial nomenclature. Yes, it is the practice of giving two names to an organism. It is known as binomial nomenclature. Okay, so let's discuss the kingdoms. We will begin with the kingdom Monera. Okay, now we talk about the kingdom Monera. Okay, so the Monerans are basically prokaryotes. All right, they are basically prokaryotic organisms. They are prokaryotic organisms. Okay, so an organism is basically said to be a prokaryote when it lacks what we call a well-defined nucleus. Okay, also an organism is said to be prokaryotic if its organelles are not bounded by membranes. Yes, so let's fix that into a single definition, which is a prokaryotic organism is any organism that lacks membrane-bound organelles and a well-defined nucleus. Please write that down. Excellent. Now, the Kingdom Monera, we have two phyla or phylums there. We have the phylum Schizophyta with the key organism being bacteria. And we have the phylum Cyanophyta with the main example being the blue-green algae. Okay, now, the branch of biology that studies bacteria is called bacteriology. All right, and the singular form for bacteria is known as bacterium. Excellent. Now, the bacteria is a small organism, okay, but it can be seen under the high power of a light microscope. Excellent. All right, so most bacteria possess what we call, as you can see here, they possess a flagellum, which is for locomotion. This is the locomotive structure of the bacteria or bacterium. They possess a cytoplasm, all right? They possess a ribosome. Present in their cytoplasm includes the ribosome, the nuclear material. You see that now? And then they have an outer protective covering, which is the cell wall, just like we have in plants. Okay? Does this mean that the bacteria can behave as a plant? Yes, it can. All right, we're coming there. Now, this is the cytoplasm, all right, which is usually, you could call it the liquid portion of the cell, all right. So this is the cytoplasm, and present here is the ribosome. And if you followed our video on cell, you will know that the ribosome is responsible for production, synthesis, or what we call the manufacture of proteins. You see that now? Now, the bacteria equally has a nuclear material, okay? So, which could be a DNA or an RNA, all right? And then it has a cell wall, which gives it rigidity. Now, the bacteria behaves, when it comes to nutrition, it behaves like a plant, okay? But it manufactures its food chemosynthetically. Yes, all right? So there's a difference between photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. So bacteria carries out chemosynthesis, some bacteria, all right? So most bacteria are actually parasitic. Yes, that is, we find them in the body of a host. All right. Some are saprophytes. Yes, while a few are chemosynthetic. Please take note of that. Okay, take note of that. Now, the bacteria also reproduces by what we call binary fission. Okay, so it's a form of asexual reproduction, the binary fission. All right. And in the reproduction of a bacteria, we have what is called the lag phase, we have what is called the exponential phase, we have what is called the stationary phase, and lastly, we have what is called the death phase. Okay, so these are all phases or stages in the reproduction of the bacteria. Okay, you see that now? Excellent. Now, when we talk about the Cyanophyta, which is the blue-green algae, all right, I'll need you to know firstly, that the blue-green algae or the cyanophytes are a primitive form of the algae. Yes, very primitive. Because when we come to the Kingdom plantain, we're also going to discuss about the algae, all right? But the blue-green algae is a primitive form. Yes, these are primitive algae. Okay, some of them exist as unicellular organisms. An example is Cinechoki, all right, or rather Cinechococci, I beg your pardon. This is unicellular. You remember forms in which cells exist? Yeah, so this is unicellular. All right, some blue green algae exist as filaments. An example is nostoc and what we call oscillatoria. Nostoc and oscillatoria. All right, then the Glycapsa and Merismopedia exist as what we call colonies. Okay, so we have another blue green algae which we call Anabena. Okay, Anabena. All right, so these are all examples of the blue green algae. You see that now? Excellent. Okay, so these are the basic members of the Kingdom Monera. Do not forget their qualities. One, they are prokaryotes, and I told you what it means to be prokaryotic. All right, so they lack membrane-bound organelles and they lack a well-defined nucleus. Okay, two, members of the Monera include bacteria and the blue-green algae. Bacteria belongs to the phylum Schizophyta, and the blue-green algae belongs to Cyanophyta. The blue-green algae is also called cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria. You see that now? Excellent. Okay, so we can simply say that the Kingdom Monera is made up of bacteria and cyanobacteria, which is the blue-green algae. All right. Now, I need to equally mention here that the cyanophyta, which are the blue-green algae, they store photosynthetic. Yes, that is, they store their food rather, as what we call glycogen-like starch. Glycogen-like starch. Now, if you are familiar with storage of food, you would know that plants and animals store food differently. Yes, plants store carbohydrates as starch. Animals store carbohydrates as glycogen. So we are saying at this point that the cyanobacteria stores their food as glycogen-like starch. Okay? And this glycogen-like starch is known as cyanophian starch. Cyanophian starch. Okay, that is what we call their food. All right, you see that now? Excellent. Okay, so that's the basic things you need to know about the Kingdom Monerans. Okay, so next up is the Kingdom Protista, and subsequent videos equally will dwell or border on other kingdoms until all kingdoms are exhausted. All right, so do not stop watching and connecting with Covenant Science Tutorial online. Okay, whether you are sitting any national exams within our country of residence, which is Nigeria. Okay, we have physical classes. Yes, we have a school for you, for those who would like to attend physical classes. And then we equally have online classes for persons who may want to come under our tutelage but are outside the country, okay, in any continent where you are found. Our contacts are there, or you can simply leave a message for us via our email at info.covenantsciencetutorials@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.